Have you ever felt like your love life is just stuck on a repeating loop? You know, the one you just can't seem to escape? Well, what if I told you that who you fall for isn't really a matter of chance or destiny or fate? What if it's something that was set in motion a long, long time ago, all the way back in your childhood? Let's get into how our earliest years might be writing our romantic stories for us.
It's a pretty wild question, isn't it? The idea that your romantic future, that person you feel that crazy, undeniable spark with, well, that choice might have already been made. Not by the stars or some cosmic plan, but by a blueprint that was created in your mind before you even knew what love was.
Okay, this is where it gets really personal. Just think about it for a second. Have you ever felt that instant, almost magnetic pull towards someone you just know is probably not right for you? Or on the flip side, you meet someone who is perfect on paper. They're kind, they're stable, they're everything you should want, but you feel absolutely nothing? And, oh boy, the big one. You find yourself in a relationship with someone who has the exact same frustrating traits you swore up and down you'd never end up with because they remind you of one of your parents. If any of that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. And there's a really powerful psychological reason for all of it.
So, to really get why this happens, we have to go back. We need to look at the very first relationship model we ever had.
Now, at the heart of all this is a concept called object relations theory. I know, it sounds super academic and complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. In psychology, objects aren't things, they're people. So what this theory says is that our early bonds, especially with our parents, become a permanent part of our minds. We basically absorb them, creating this unconscious blueprint for what love and connection are supposed to feel like to us.
And this whole process happens in about 3 stages. First, it all starts with those incredibly intense bonds we have with our parents or caregivers. Then, we internalize everything about that relationship. Not just the good stuff, the hugs and the love, but also the conflict, the tension, the specific role we had to play. And finally, and this is the part that changes everything, our subconscious takes over. It starts to guide us, almost like a heat-seeking missile, toward partners who fit that original dynamic, so we can recreate it. It's not looking for happiness, you see, it's just looking for what's familiar.
So it's one thing to talk about a blueprint, right? But what does this actually look like when we're out there trying to date as adults?
Well, it really boils down to this. The role you learn to play in your family as a kid is often the exact same role you're trying to play in your romantic relationships. You just don't know it. It is a powerful, unconscious drive to stick to the only script you've ever known.
Here are a couple of classic examples of how this plays out. Let's say you grew up with a really critical parent, and you always felt like you had to be perfectly good just to get any affection. Well, you might grow up to be a people pleaser, always trying to earn love from a partner who's also hard to satisfy. Or what if you were the one who had to be the adult in the room, the one taking care of a parent or a sibling? You might become the overgiver and find yourself drawn to partners who always seem to need saving or taking care of. Ringing any bells?
And believe me, the patterns don't stop there. We see these kinds of destined pairings all the time in psychology. It's uncanny. People with an anxious attachment style, they are so often drawn to people who are emotionally distant or avoidant. People who learned early on to be obedient, they often find themselves with controlling partners. And tragically, those who are the most starved for love and validation can become an absolute magnet for narcissists. See, it's not just bad luck, it's the blueprint at work.
Okay, so this leads us to the biggest, most important question of all. If these patterns often cause us so much pain, why on earth do we keep doing it?
Right? It makes no sense. It's completely illogical. If your childhood dynamic was full of anxiety or neglect or criticism, why would you ever want to relive that?
And the answer lies in understanding that our conscious mind and our subconscious mind want 2 totally different things. Your conscious mind, the one you're listening with right now, it wants happiness, peace, love. But your subconscious, the one that's really driving your attractions, it's just looking for one thing: familiarity. It's drawn to whatever feels like home, because whatever is familiar feels predictable, and what's predictable feels safe, even if that safety is actually the safety of a pain you already know how to survive.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. For a child who learned that love equals being controlled, a relationship that actually offers freedom and respect can feel, well, wrong. It can feel uncomfortable, even scary, like abandonment. Why? Because it doesn't match the blueprint. Your subconscious literally doesn't recognize it as love. It's looking for the drama, the control, the distance, whatever it learned to associate with connection. And that is why we so often push away the nice person and chase after the wrong one.
Okay, so this all might be sounding a little bleak, maybe even depressing, but I promise you, the story does not end here. The moment you start to see the pattern is the exact same moment you get the power to change it.
The most important thing to get is that this blueprint only has power because it operates in the dark. It's an unconscious program running in the background of your life. So the single most powerful thing you can do is drag it out into the light. You have to turn that unconscious programming into conscious awareness.
So how do you actually do that? Well, breaking the cycle really involves 3 key steps. First, you have to get brutally honest with yourself and just recognize your pattern. What's the recurring theme? Who are you always drawn to? What role do you always end up playing? Second, you have to connect that pattern back to your past and consciously tell yourself, this isn't my destiny, it's just an echo. And third, and this is the absolute foundation for everything else, you have to genuinely, truly believe that change is possible. Your future is not sealed by your past. You can choose differently.
All right, this last part is all about putting that awareness into action. It's about healing those old wounds and actively, consciously creating a new romantic future for yourself. Look, your childhood blueprint might be set in stone, but you are not. Your personality isn't fixed. You have an incredible capacity to grow, to heal, and to learn totally new ways of being with people. You are not doomed to repeat the past forever.
So how do you actually heal? The real path forward isn't just about thinking about the problem, it's about experiencing the solution. You heal old relationship wounds by creating new, healthy relationship experiences. And that can happen with a great therapist, with supportive friends, and most powerfully of all, with a romantic partner who offers a different, healthier kind of love.
And this, right here, is the real work. It means that when you feel that old, familiar, intoxicating pull towards someone who fits your childhood blueprint perfectly, you stop. And you recognize it for what it is, just an echo. And instead, you make a conscious choice to lean into the connection that feels calm, that feels safe, that feels nurturing, even if it doesn't have that big, dramatic spark your subconscious has been trained to look for.
Ultimately, your past doesn't have to define your future. It gave you the first draft of your relationship story, sure. It was a script written when you were too young to even understand the words. But now you have the pen. You have the awareness and you have the choice. So the only question left is, what new story are you going to write?